So this video is by Obsidian Ant, and it's called Starfield Planets Controversy. Invisible walls, worlds have boundaries, question mark. That's such a weird name of a video, but sure. So this is something that I feared, and I was sure that it's gonna be like this, but yeah, let's watch the video.
Controversy surrounding Starfield and its planets. You may have heard of some of this, and some of you may not, but I think it's something we really need to talk about. Now, you would have noticed I put controversy in quotes in the video title, and I did this for a reason, and we'll get to those reasons slightly further into the video. Now I'm going to
This looks amazing. Come on.
break this video down into 3 segments. First, I will talk about the issue itself. Second, I will talk about the general reaction towards the issue. And third, I will give my own personal thoughts on the subject.
Every time that I see this guy with this tattoo, I'm just like, no, what the fuck is this? No, why? This is just weird. And not like in Star Wars Twi'lek weird or like whatever race. It's just like, what are you doing with your life?
So let's start with the issue itself. Now it turns out that planetary surfaces in Starfield are not seamless, that in fact planets are broken down into regions or tiles. Each tile is a map that can take up to 40 minutes to walk across. That's similar to the time frame to walk across the map in Skyrim. Now in terms of specifics, this information originally came from leaks. However, it has since been confirmed by Tom Henderson of the
When he says leaks, those leaks are currently happening because a bunch of content creators got early access copies. So they told someone, and I would trust the leaks without confirmation from Tom Henderson, whoever that guy is. But yeah, it is like that, probably.
Website Insider Gaming. Although personally, I don't have review access to the game, and this means I have to take Tom at his word. It's up to each of you to decide what you want to do with that. Now, all that said, I have seen dozens of...
Gumby said that those are Moko, traditional Maori tattoos. Okay, then I'm just like an idiot. But still, it's weird, right?
Screenshots from the review copies of Starfield, and to my eyes, these screenshots do indeed look legitimate. However, I cannot verify or guarantee that. But one screenshot in specific does stand out, and it's a screenshot which started a lot of this off, and unfortunately I can't show that screenshot.
I was about to say he probably can't share it because he will get a strike. Or like a YMCA.
It has a
DMCA
message actually in the game. The character has reached the edge of the map, and then this message appears. Boundary reached. Open the map to explore another region, or return to your ship.
Yep.
This message allegedly appears when a player walks a long distance from their spaceship and then hits the edge of the map tile. Now, Tom Henderson has said...
Now look, sorry for pausing again. KC093 has a really good question here. He said, how many games have you rage quit just because the level ends after running straight for 15 minutes? Not that many. But here's the thing. What's his name? Todd Howard? The fucking Bethesda guy? I think it's Todd Howard, right? I'm thinking of other Todds from the other company, that which we're not going to name. But yeah, so Bethesda has said that it's just Todd, sure. Bethesda has said that you're not going to have land vehicles because it's going to be... Because everything is procedurally generated, right? And that's what they told us. So procedural generation will not work with like fast movement on the planets, right? But if the maps have boundaries, that only means that they're not procedurally generated and that we could have vehicles. They just didn't make them for some reason. So it's all about marketing, right? And it's a question of what else didn't they tell us, right? Because, or what else was a lie? Because if maps have boundaries, That only means that the planets are not procedurally generated. And let me just like read out the whole thing here. So we are in 153. So this is really important. Just getting around to all this Starfield boundary stuff from an article that went up on Instagram, which I actually thought was fine. Basically, planets have a different number of landing spots with terrain limits. So, yeah. One planet might have 3 landing spots, whilst another might have 5. So, in one of my last streams, one of you guys said that you can land wherever you want to on the planet. And I believed you, because why wouldn't I, right? But then again, it's a Bethesda game, and it all sounds like BS. Because we know them, we know that they're like BS whenever they're about to like launch a game. So let me continue. These are your main landing spots with points of interest, and then you have another number of landing spot locations where you can land everywhere or anywhere. Once again, terrain limit. You can't run all the way around the planet or whatever, and can't run to another landing spot. Must just be a means to not stress consoles and computers or whatever. And that's one of the main reasons why I was so confused when somebody said that, when people said that you can land wherever, that you can go around the whole planet and all of that, because like it needs to work on an Xbox. The Xbox does not have a 4090, 7950X. Fucking how many terabytes do I have? I'm talking about my PC, by the way. I have like 128 gigabytes of DDR5, and I have fucking, I'm gonna say 24 terabytes of like space, right? The Xbox does not have that. So, yeah. Expecting actual planets that you can like go around is a bit too much. Which doesn't mean that this is a bad thing. It could be still a great game, right? We're all going to find out the truth in just a few days. So when's the launch? Is it on the 10th? I think it's like 10th of September. Anyway, let's continue.
Said at this point, players need to head back to their ship to get to the next region. However, the message itself quite clearly says you can use the map screen to access the next region. Further tweets from Tom state the following. Planets have between 3 to 5 fixed landing zones. These are points of interest such as cities. Players are free, however, to land anywhere they want on a planet.
Although, again, Todd said that most of the planets and the moons are not going to have basically anything when it comes to points of interest, because most of them are just going to be wastelands.
In the footage right here, the player simply creates a landing beacon at which they can land at. The game then creates a new point of interest landing zone. Tom Henderson then claims that players have a limited number of custom landing zones. After they hit this number, the first custom landing zone is removed. It's not entirely clear to me what this means, so I'm not going to speculate. Now, all this said, it is still possible to fully explore the entire planet, and planets are broken down into dozens, if not hundreds of tiles. So yes, this means players can still explore every part of the planet. Now at this point, you may be wondering why you've seen not very few YouTubers actually make videos on this. The reason for that is very clear. Those who have review access to the game are under NDA, and that means legally they cannot talk about this issue.
I thought Obsidian is also under NDA, or like he has a copy, but
seeing many videos on the subject. From my point of view, I do want to make one thing very, very clear. I'm not interested in creating drama. This video isn't intended as a clickbait. This video is not here for the clicks. If I wanted to create hundreds of thousands of views, then I would have used a more provocative title, and I would be approaching things in a very different way. So yeah, creating drama certainly isn't the intention here. So what is my intention? Well, I believe that people have a right to know what's going on with any game before they actually buy it. And I'll get into my own reasons and my own thoughts on this very shortly. First though, there's another question. Have Bethesda been lying about Starfield? Well, point of fact, no. Back on the Lex Fridman podcast, Todd Howard was very clear that planets are broken down into tiles.
And so we did find a way, we came up with a way, had prototyped of building tiles, like large tiles of landscape, the way we would usually build them.
Now, here's the issue. Yes, he said this, but he said this in the sense of he was talking about how they did the procedural generation of planets and moons in Starfield. That's the issue. So when he was talking about tiles, and you're going to hear it now, he was talking about, okay, so we made tiles by hand and made them, made the whole planet procedurally generate with those tiles. And those tiles all have variations to them. So you're never going to have like the same tile happen over and over again, right? So it's really hard because it is a lie, but also there is some truth in it, right? And that's Bethesda, right?
We kind of generate them offline, hand do some things, and end up with the...
But also, does it matter? Not really. As somebody said, it's an RPG game. The story matters.
These very realistic looking tiles of landscape, and then built a system that wraps those around a planet and blends them all together.
See,
now, different people
exactly
have
what I said.
interpreted that in different ways over the past few months, but for those of you who have watched my previous videos, you'll be well aware that I've often been of the opinion that this may be suggesting that the world was broken down into regions. Ultimately though, whichever way you look at it, that statement was just not as clear as it really should have been. Later, in the Starfield showcase, Bethesda said players will generally be exploring around their ship, a very specific way to describe exploring planetary surfaces.
We love exploration and rewarding it, but you do explore differently in this game given its scale. That usually involves exploring an area you've landed in.
And then later, very recently...
Yeah, and that's like trying to ease us into the fact that you can't really go that far away from your spacecraft. Why would you? Like, it's going to take you even longer to, like, or twice as long to go to the end of the world and back, right? So there's no reason to do that. But again, does it matter? Not really.
In fact, Pete Hines, head of publishing at Bethesda, in a tweet suggested that planets are indeed fully explorable. However, what they all failed to mention in each of these cases is that there are transitions or loading screens between these tiles and that planets are not seamless. The bottom line here is that Bethesda have not been lying about this. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not covering for them, but facts are facts, and they have specifically stated that planets are tiled. However,
also, I never understood why is there like McCree or Cassidy from Overwatch in a spaceship here.
They
but
have
sure,
specifically
whatever.
stated
This
that
guy
planets
here.
are tiled. However, Bethesda have also not been very clear about exactly how this would work. It would have been very easy for them to point it out in the showcase that planets are indeed broken down into regions and you would need to transition across those regions. So assuming that this is indeed true, that planets are broken down into tiles and you need to transition across regions, well, in that case, I would fully agree that it's a mistake that Bethesda did not mention this. Now, moving on to the other two sections of this video, they're both going to be relatively short.
It's not really a mistake, it's an intentional lie. It's the same with the Skyrim. You see that mountain over there? It's not a backdrop, you can go there. Right? And there's probably going to be more of them that we're going to uncover or discover once we start playing the game.
Firstly, player reactions, community reactions out on the internet. To be perfectly clear, the reaction hasn't been massive. There's not thousands and millions of people all stampeding or complaining about this, but there are a fair few. It's also possible that come release, there may be a few more people who feel as though they've been misled about this subject. The most common complaint then is that a lot of people have felt that planets might be very similar to what they're like in Elite Dangerous or No Man's Sky. That's once you've landed in one location, you can just keep walking seamlessly right around the entire planet until you come to either a boundary such as a ocean or a mountain you can't get over, or otherwise simply walk all the way back in a complete circle back to your ship again. For the people who feel that this way, it really is all about immersion to them. The idea of living in a fully seamless world and the ability to just completely explore that without any hindrance or without any loading screen. A few other people feel it's a matter of principle, and whilst some are out...
Look, I don't want to be the advocate for the devil, right? Or devil's advocate. But let's talk about exploration for a second. If you're exploring, if you're playing a game to explore, like in the other game that we're not going to mention, and you know the game that I'm talking about, there is no exploration in that game. Because, yes, you can fly, yes, you can use vehicles and all that, but then what are you going to find? Because exploration has a purpose. You're exploring to find something. But if there's nothing to find, then like you're not exploring, you're roaming. You're just like driving or flying around and that's it. Right? Exploration in No Man's Sky sucks, even using the scanner. So, I don't know, I played like No Man's Sky once. And here's the issue. For exploration, and this is an RPG game. This is supposed to be an RPG game with a storyline. If you want to explore, that only means that they had to like put in a lot of effort to place things around maps or make them procedurally generate. Thank you, Atlas, for the $5.
Atlas Gaming super chatted $4.99. You devil.
So thank you. I lost my train of thought. So yeah, so they would like the developers would need to put in a lot of work to make stuff that is interesting for you to find while exploring in those tiles. If those tiles work like Todd just said, but they're not working like that, but whatever. So that's a lot of people working on stuff just so you can roam around and find something, right? And again, it's an RPG game, and it's a storyline-driven game, and that's how you got to play it.
Right, incorrectly claiming that Bethesda have lied about this, others feel perhaps more reasonably that...
Say less, you can't say that it needs content like we didn't even fucking see the game. Like... You can't say that. Yes, I would love it to be like co-op or multiplayer or whatever, but maybe there's like content for fucking, I don't know, for a month.
Bethesda have
maybe
misled
more.
People.
You never know.
Again, of course, assuming that all of this is true. And then there's a selection of people who feel that this isn't a major issue because ultimately players can still explore the entirety of a planet's surface, albeit with transitions or some type of loading screen. And finally, there seems to be a load of people out there that just don't care one way or another. All they want is a quality game. So these are the four main different perspectives that I've seen expressed across the internet, whether it's YouTube, forums or Reddit. But of course that doesn't express or cover every single opinion out there, but yeah, like I said, these do seem to be the main ones. Now, what do I think about
the
all of this?
Space flight looks super immersive.
I feel that, yes, I can entirely understand.
You know what? We don't even know if it's going to support like dual sticks or HOTAS or anything. We don't know shit about this game. Is it going to support Toby? Is it going to support Track IR? Maybe it's just like mouse and keyboard. And it probably is going to be just that because it's an RPG game.
I understand why some people feel that they've been misled over this. Bethesda haven't been entirely clear about it. But also feel that Bethesda haven't lied, far from it in fact. Back in the Flex Friedman podcast, Todd Howard was very clear that planets are broken down into tiles. He just didn't say that you'd have to have a loading screen between these tiles. Some people might feel that's lying through omission. I don't really see it that way. Although that said, I do understand why some people might feel misled. My personal
like purely because of what Todd said here, that Obsidian Ant just fucking played, because that was a lie.
Take on all of this though is that ultimately it doesn't bother me. I don't think it's a major cause for concern. We
Yes.
got these maps, again, assuming this is all true, we've got these maps that take at least 40 minutes to get across. That means that these maps are around about the same size as the map in Skyrim. This is truly massive. Now, if each planet only had one of these maps, that would mean 1,000 different maps the size of the one in Skyrim.
Yep.
But planets aren't limited to just one of these maps. Instead, each planet is potentially broken down into dozens, maybe even hundreds of maps of this scale.
I don't think
yes,
so.
It's a truly massive game. The fact that there's a loading screen or some type of boundary between these really doesn't bother me at all. Ultimately though, I do think it would be much better if we could just load into the map screen to transition across these boundaries, as it would be a bit of a hassle if we've got to return back to the ship each time to get to the next region. Also, on the question and the
Look, I'm gonna make a prediction here, and I'm probably gonna be right. So I don't think there's gonna be loading screens. So the only loading screen that you have in the game is gonna be while you're landing, because it's just an animation. There's no like seamless transition between spaceflight and landing on a surface. Once you find a landing spot, you have a loading screen under quotations. It's happening in the background, and your like ship is landing, right? Once it's landed, you're on a map. And I don't think there's going to be any like loading screens between tiles. I just think it's going to be a map, and that's it. You choose another spot, it's going to be like a similar but slightly different map, but that's it. And I'm going to say like it's going to have like outside of points of interest. I'm going to say it's going to have like 5 maps tops per moon, maybe even less. Like hundreds, that's way too optimistic, honestly.
subject as to what these maps will contain. Well, Bethesda have said that 90% of planets are going to be barren, so we know that for the most part, many of these maps will have nothing on them aside from resources to collect. That means it would be very silly really and unreasonable to expect each of these maps, each of these regions to be as fully detailed as something like Skyrim or Fallout 4. Personally, I'm expecting each area to just have a whole bunch of different activities such as small little dungeons and settlements, as well as other such things to discover, as well as numerous encounters. In other words,
it's probably going to be mostly empty, and then like occasionally you're going to find something. That's at least what like Todd said before, and I trust him on that simply because that's realistic.
was similar to when you go out into the wilds in Skyrim and the small encounters or mid-sized encounters that you can have there. And finally, there's one other point I want to talk about. This is a subject that Bethesda have mentioned numerous times. The fact that each player will have a different experience on the same planet. In other words, if 2 different players go to the same location on the same planet, they will both see something different. Now, there's been some divided opinions over exactly what this means. Some people have assumed that this means that the terrain is the same for each player, but the settlements and the other things that spawn in will be different.
Also, this is one more reason why I think the multiplayer is never going to come for this game. Simply because... Also, I'm still a bit sick. Like, I don't know if I got COVID or... I don't know what it was, but I was like completely like wasted for like 2 weeks straight, and I'm still like a bit ill, but yeah. Anyway, I don't think that this game is gonna get multiplayer simply because each player, because if there is actual procedural generation with tiles or whatever, whenever you land on the map, that map is gonna look like that just for you. The other player is not gonna have the same map in the same spot. With that said, like, or with that in mind, you can't really have multiplayer because, like, if you had multiplayer, and if somebody made a mod for it, that would only mean that maybe you're on top of a mountain, and then you have like a guy that is not, and you're that guy that is not on top of the fucking mountain, and you're looking at the guy, but there's no mountain there. And he's just like levitating, right? So it just can't work. And that's just being like realistic about it, honestly.
for each player. Personally, my thought on this has always been that the
I don't think
terrain
it's going to have
and the regions
multiplayer.
themselves will always
Honestly.
be different for player to player. Again, pure speculation here on my part, as I don't know. I haven't had hands-on with the game. But based on what we've heard so far on these claims that the planets are broken down into regions, it seems to me that if each region is procedurally generated, then it's very likely they're going to be different for each player. Again, this isn't really something that I see as a problem, at least not for me, although I'm sure it may be a little bit of an issue or maybe a major issue for some people out there. Oh, and there was one other thing I did see out there. Again, I don't know how true this is, but it seems that there are loading screens all over Starfield. On the planets, you cross one region, you may hit a loading screen. There's also loading screens, apparently, to get inside your ship and exit your ship. And then, of course, we also don't know if there's transitions from planet to planet when you're up in space flying your ship. We don't know if you're free to fly from planet to planet. Instead, it appears at least you may have to use the grav drive and get there as a mode of fast travel as such.
It could be, again,
ultimately there,
a loading
that's pretty
screen.
much everything that we know so far about what's going on with Starfield. Unfortunately, none of this is official confirmation. We don't have hands-on with the game, but I think people like Tom Henderson generally are very trustworthy and have always posted good information in the past. For me, I'm going to take his word at what has been said about Starfield, although, of course, for you, each of you, you really need to come up to your own mind and your own decisions about that. Do let me know in the comment section below what you think about all of this. Do you feel that planets being broken down into boundaries and regions is a problem, or do you think it's no real issue at all? Do let me know in the comment
That's
section
a lot of
below.
patrons.
As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.
Yeah, it's a good video. Let me share it with you guys. I don't think it's going to be an issue because, again, it's an RPG game. And it is what it is. But, again, they told us a lie, and it's just Bethesda, right? This game is already earned more in my heart than fucking What the fuck is SC again? Why are you guys just talking about SC? What is that? Under X amount of years, anyways, and all that bullshit. Yeah. I mean, look, prepare to be disappointed, because see, I'm kidding. I'm just like faking amnesia here. Prepare to be disappointed, or be cautious about it, right? Don't get your heart broken again. That's how that's how I operate, and you can't know what's gonna happen with it. Yeah, be cautiously excited for it, right?